actually use the countdown, and then instead of hitting stop, I just hit it again. This is what happens.
You know, our timing may not always be perfect, but we're here, and let's celebrate being here.
That's right. Welcome to the pipeline.
Opening doors and
closing
business.
That's right. I'm so happy that we are here. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever, first of all.
Right? Just for all of you who are out there, Lorena and I may work together, but we don't work together.
We never see you.
Listen, we are out there making things happen, and the world is changing, the market is changing, and we need to adapt to that. And so you and I both have to so we're running on rails, and that's what we're doing.
And we're missing one of our favorite people.
I know, but Kate has,
watching this, we miss you.
We miss you, Kate Conroy. You are part of our tripod of magic and our coven, if you will.
Yes, she is actually at NJBIA is hosting their energy summit today. So they are on site doing that. So we wish you luck. I'm sure you have a great attendance because it is a topic that is, being talked about everywhere, right?
Yes, there's a lot going on. Yeah.
And with oil prices as they are, as we're getting into the winter time, we all know what we should be expecting.
Well, listen, there's a reason I have fuzzy blankets that I sit with at my desk and my heater and all sorts of stuff. But, as we advance, as the gift of advancing in age, because it is a gift, as I get colder, and that's
Listen, let me tell you, that lovely M word that we're talking about right now, being through it already, I'm 3 years into it already. It is fantastic to not spend as much on heat, but you still get a little chilly. But yeah, my son's like, why is it 67? Why is it 66? I'm like, do not touch it.
Well, I wasn't going there with the M word, but thank you. And, that is a perfect segue into our topic today, because today we are talking about the multi-generational workplace. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you, I don't think ever before in my work experience, and I've been in the marketplace for close to 30 years, which is shocking, have there been so many different generations working in sometimes the same environment. And
I know. Do you remember the days when somebody asked you your age and you were the youngest in the room, and now there's people that are literally born in the 2000s and you're going, wait, what? That just happened yesterday.
I'm like a 2X of you. I
still think, you see those memes of 30 years ago was the 70s. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. And then I'm like, oh wait, no, it wasn't. I'm like,
30 years ago was the 90s.
Yes, exactly.
It blows my mind.
But now you have such a dynamic workforce, because you still have people that were, that are close to their 70s that are still working. Because let's face it, we're living so much younger. So they're still energetic. They're still working.
That's such a great way to put it. We're living so much younger. That's an excellent way to articulate it, because my mom at my age was much different than sparky little myself, but it was a generational thing. It wasn't just how we it is how we choose to live, but everything is about supporting youth preservation, vitality. There's a statistic that shows in less than 2 years, what was it? I gotta look at it.
In 2 years,
41% of the U.S. labor force will be over the age of 55. That's shocking.
It is shocking. But it also goes to show you, remember there used to be a time where if you were over 50, 55, you started to worry about your job. I'm going to get laid off because of my age, and now I personally think primarily now, because of the world that we live in, where so much of this is virtual, we're finding such value in those folks that are over the age of 55, because they have the experience, the knowledge. And we're going back to, I'm going to say it, the mentorship days. We're going back to a lot of that, where they really want to foster that team building that we've kind of been lacking the last few years.
You bring up a really excellent point, because I come out of staffing. So before I joined Paradigm and had my own firm before that. I worked in the city for 24 years, 20 of them at a staffing agency. And we saw the birth of the gig economy where, if you were over 45, especially in creative, which is where I came from, you were like a dinosaur. And they were so happy. Like, you were afraid. You talk about that target when you're over 50, 50, 55. In creative, it started much earlier. And there was that, when that age group started getting eviscerated or displaced from the marketplace, they started to find new careers for themselves. But what was missing was that mentorship, was that changing of the guards, of that, like, sharing the wisdom from the past for, this is how you handle a client. And when they got rid of everybody who knew how to, like, handle a client, everything became a rush, and there was no more managing client expectations. It was like whatever the client wanted, and all of that nuance got lost. And then the last 20 years, they've been trying to rebuild it, because you know what? There is no more overtime. Nobody wants to pay overtime. Nobody wants to pay rush charges. Well, then you're going to have to wait.
Yeah, younger generations too are looking at life and work balance completely different than we ever did. They are really prioritizing jobs and careers that allow them the flexibility to travel, have children, do the hobbies, volunteer. I mean, I know that particularly my daughter's 20. I mean, that age group is very focused on how can I give back to the community? And they want jobs and careers that will allow them to do that. So it's a completely different shift.
So now the market is shifting, and their statistics, I mean, it's just a numbers game. Within the next 10 years, the oldest generation of workers, which, it says here baby boomers, but I'm going to argue, I know some silent generations who are still in the marketplace. But
I was going to say, I don't think people truly get out of the workforce anymore, because I think consulting is a thing that is really coming back.
And that's an excellent point. But like in 10 years, traditional baby boomers are going to be out of the workforce entirely. I mean, think about that. And my generation, I'm a Gen Xer, we're one of the smallest generations. So that's kind of one of the things when we see shortages of in the labor market. My generation is,
I'm a Gen Z client. I'm a Gen Z who wants to be a Gen Xer.
And we welcome you, because you are very Gen Xer.
Yes, I'm very Gen X. So I'm a Gen Z who wants to be a Gen Xer and identifies as a Gen Xer.
You can do that. You can identify as anything you want.
Exactly.
I'm a Gen Xer.
And I will say that it is very different to be in a workforce where you are trying to, we've got some of our team members who have never worked in an office.
Right.
Like, this is their second or third job, but because of the pandemic, because of college, the way that it's worked, because of just the industry that we're in, we've got ourselves folks that have never worked in an office before. We've got clients who have employees who've never worked in an actual office building. We actually have a client that did their company picnic this past summer for the first time. They flew everybody out, and it was like, we've never met some of these employees, and they've been working with us for 4 or 5 years. We had the same thing. Right. We just
did our retreat, which was amazing to meet everybody. It changes the dynamic 100%. Yeah.
We had one employee that's been working with us for, God, they've been working together for like 10 years, I think it is. And they've never met in person because of just where we are regionally. And it's just amazing to me that we're focusing on the generational and the entire way we work things. And that's got to be a huge HR, I don't want to call it nightmare, challenge or opportunity.
I think it's just a different obstacle that you have to learn how to challenge. But the reality is that there's a changing of the guards happening. And from a business development standpoint, how do we assimilate to the changing of the guard? So our client today might not be our client tomorrow. So then all those referrals, what do they say? 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients. And if your clients are starting to change out, where does that leave your business? So it actually begs to ask a different question. As the changing of the guard starts, And as it's happening, how do you fortify your business to be able to accommodate that shift? And how are your sales processes changing
for that?
to be able to accommodate that new shift? You know, the network of today might be, it's going to be a different person tomorrow.
And I think it's not only just the messaging that you are having to change, and not necessarily change, but tweak, right? You got to finesse it a little bit, not necessarily change it, but you got to finesse it. And we talk about this all the time, right? You have to really know your audience, and you have to target your audience with the right message at the right time. But I think it's also important to take note that not only are you changing or tweaking that message for your outbound message, but also internally, when you have that big of age groups and differences working together, you also have to make sure that your internal marketing, because people forget that a lot, right? Like internal messaging is an internal marketing message that you have to consider as well. And that is another target audience that you have, because the best add on to your sales team that you can have from a business development perspective is your own team, right? They're silently selling for you, even when they don't know they're selling for you. So tweaking that message to make sure that they know how to communicate with those clients and those business development targets is also super crucial. But I think
because you have those cross-sell, upsell opportunities with your existing clients. But then it's also knowing, who am I selling to now? You really may need to strike a bifurcated strategy, because what matters to the different—
That's a fancy word.
Bifurcated?
Please use it in a sentence in a definition.
A snake's tongue is bifurcated.
Oh, thank you. For those of us that are not as literate as you,
that was not probably the description you were looking for, but I always love that word, bifurcated. But bifurcated means having a double strategy or two different strategies, because your audience has different needs, and what might appeal to a millennial might not appeal to a Gen Xer or to a boomer. And I kind of find, like, when I look at generations, it's almost like a Venn diagram, not pulling any headlines from the news, because there's a whole bunch of Venn diagram discussions going on out there. But when you look at the baby boomers and the millennials, and interesting because they're, so many at odds with each other, but they're the parents of the millennials. But then the Gen Xers are kind of in the middle. So there's like a kind of a lot of overlap, which is probably why you identify with a Gen Xer in a lot of ways, because where you are on the millennial spectrum is closer to us. So you see things in a different way. And so when you're looking at your strategy, what matters to that, to your current buyer, and what's going to matter to your buyer of tomorrow? One of the things that I talk to businesses about all the time is they're like, well, my client doesn't need a fancy website. And I said, well, your client today doesn't, but you're grooming this business for your son to run or the next generation to run. And what does their client need?
That is such a great point, because people forget. It's like, well, I don't need this. We've been doing this the same way for so many years. Fantastic. Well, if it's not broken, why fix it? Well, because we never work on just what's happening today. Like we talk about all the time, you have to be planning ahead. And it goes back to so many other things that we've talked about in the past, right? Knowing data metrics and everything. But if you know your sales cycle is 6 months, we are living in such a turbulent time that 6 months could be such a drastic different environment.
Oh my God. 6 months ago, would you have imagined that we were going to be here today? No. I don't even open my statements now, just so we're clear.
No, it's just totally different. So while we don't have a crystal ball and we can't really guesstimate what it's going to be, knowing what's happened in the past and what's worked in the past is going to allow us exactly to figure out, where can we position ourselves? Things cycle in and out. Sales cycle have a beginning and an end date. You start to figure out some of these nuances, and knowing your target audience and trying to identify how that target audience message needs to be shifted. All of it comes back full circle, right?
And you brought up a great point earlier when you talked about you may not have to change the whole thing. It just might be a tweak. But that tweak is about identifying the pain. What is the pain that your prospects have, and what is the problem that you're solving? And we always talk about, you mentioned it, we're looking at who your target audience is, what message matters to them. 70%, and if you've heard me talk anywhere, you've heard me throw this stat around, but 70% of marketing fails because it is not resonating with its intended target audience. So the message just flies right by them. And it could just be as simple as a word, or you can, that's why it's really important to really understand. Thank you for dropping that link, by the way, the link for doing your target audience worksheet.
It's a handy worksheet that you can reuse over and over again because it changes all the time. So definitely.
You should be evaluating every time you're sensing. First of all, you should be evaluating your target audience every year. But
at a minimum,
at a minimum, but when you're in uncertain times, which, I mean, not for anything, I've been talking to people, there is this prevailing pit in people's stomachs that things are changing and they can't necessarily put their finger on it aside from what's happening in the volatility of the stock market. The stock market is a lag indicator. So the things that we're seeing, with jobs reports and things like that, and things that influence the market, those happened in August. It's not what's happening today. So people are starting to get that pit, and they're starting to have fear and dread. And when you're starting to experience fear and dread, your natural inclination is to protect yourself. And time and time again, we always talk about this. People say, the marketing is one of the first things to go. And that can be single-handedly the biggest mistake that you will make with your business. And when you feel fear and dread, it's about, again, running into the fire, not running away from it. And so those are the things.
You want to come out at the other end and be the shiny object that everyone's looking at.
Exactly. Because the reality is behaviors and cyclical data shows that there's always people that are going to go into hunker down mode. They're going to go in protective mode. And there is data from the 2008 financial crisis that says, and we have data from 5 years post financial crisis that said businesses that did not market, either they failed to exist or they only saw a 19% increase in their business. And businesses that did market, that recognized that being visible, staying out in front, and it's not just about marketing, it's about having the right message, re-identifying what that message is, because now we've had to realign with what my audience's needs are today, not using the same message as before. So that's about being very strategic. They saw an upwards increase of 275%. 275. The numbers don't lie. And you are the data geek. Wait, you are the data geek.
275% increase in business. And it's not just like to your point, it's not just about the marketing. It's that when there is that lull, can you actually afford to float it for like maybe a month or two to see what happens with the team you have? Repurpose that time that maybe you don't have as much going on to look at what you have in place, look at your processes, look at your systems, look at the way you're tracking your data. What can you do in that down period to take advantage of all the things that you wished you could do?
Like cleaning out your bad emails.
Right, exactly. Like doing some housekeeping that we know we need to have. Like if we think of all the home improvement that went on during 2020 when people were home, right? Like all the wish list items and the honey-do lists that were not completed for decades that all of a sudden were done in like 7 months, right?
Home Depot and Lowe's were on a tear.
Oh my God. Home Depot is still my favorite place to go to. But I'm just using that as an example, right? Like humans as a group, we all got together and had to hunker on down at home and we did all these things. But if we could do that as businesses, right? If you take the opportunity, instead of seeing it as like chaos, take that opportunity of a small lull to revamp, tweak, update, review, so that you can then continue move forward, right?
Get fighting weight.
Yes, get to your fighting weight. But then what happens is if you're able to set yourself up the right way, you're able to continue the marketing, you're able to stay the course, you're going to come out stronger, better, and fitter than ever before.
And the good news is because this is cyclical, and newsflash, these things happen all the time. If you're into charts at all, and I am not, but I've been reading it. I know I finally got it right. My pal over here is the data geek. When you start to look at charts over a period, I mean, just look at this millennia alone. We're in it for 22 years, which is shocking because I remember when the world was going to end with Y2K.
Oh my God, yes.
Wasn't that ridiculous?
Flashing the money in the house because you knew the ATMs weren't going to work.
100%. You knew the world was ending. Like, it was happening, and we were going to live like it was 1999. Yes. And it was just like, I literally would not be anywhere near the city. I lived in Hoboken at the time. My husband and I lived in Hoboken, and we were like, I don't want to be near the city in case they blow it up. Like, literally, if that was just what was, I was like, all the systems are going to shut down. And
it's going to be like the movies, like,
yes, the Lincoln Tunnel was going to flood and Hoboken would have been gone. So, yeah. But neither here nor there. Whoa, newsflash, that didn't happen. But the funny thing is, if you start looking at things in cyclical periods, first over, look at the last 20 years. And then when we start looking at, and the 20 years before, and the 20 years before, you're going to start to see repeating patterns. I mean, the great pandemic of 1916, and then 100 years later, in 2020, we had yet another pandemic. You thought we would have learned. But what we end up doing is we repeat these cycles because the generational knowledge shifts out. So tying into our topic today, it's like, how do you leverage the intelligence of the people who have so much of that mentor skill and that wisdom? How do you leverage that in the marketplace? How do you prepare for those people to be leaving the marketplace over the next 10 years? How do you fortify those new relationships so you have a continuity plan? Yeah. And how do you get them to introduce you to the new people coming in? And how
that changing of the guards takes place because it needs to happen. So, and you bring up a point about cyclical, but one of the other things we can't forget is that, while yes, a lot of it is cyclical and we kind of repeat some patterns, there's a lot of innovation that happens from crisis.
And opportunity is abound in crisis.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we have learned from this last pandemic is, when we talked about virtual environments and virtual worlds, we didn't really take a lot of credit. Like, there was a lot of companies that were still like, no, virtual work is not going to work for us. Like, virtual events are not really going to be our thing. It's like, continuing education classes really have to be in person and all of these things that, let me tell you, a lot of that has gone out the window. I just did a continuing education course for a client of ours. They partnered with a national association. I kid you not, we had 888 people registered for this event. Like, it was amazing.
Don't we talk about undeniable efficiencies?
Absolutely. And now we have all these opportunities. I'm going to do a plug, right? We have all these opportunities for virtual networking. I mean, and that's how we started with the pipeline. And this show has been going on now because it's a result of us doing Table for Four. Table for Four, if you've never joined, is a networking opportunity that takes place the fourth Monday of every single month from 12 to 1. But when we're talking about staying in front of people, staying visible, and making sure you know your target audience, what better way to do so than not having to get in the car and having to sit in traffic for an hour? You can join us. I'll put the registration link right on our screen so that you can register. I'll put it in the comments as well. But you can register for a virtual networking event. And again, every month you'll have a room of 4 individuals. So we get in together as a group, we'll chit chat a little bit, and then we'll go into breakout rooms, and you get to do 2 breakout rooms.
Tables. It's table for 4.
Tables. So 2 different rooms that you get to be in with 4 people in that, each one of those tables. And you get to come back with like actual real networking, not just the rushed 90-second who it is that I am, but real interaction of, give us a success story, give us a win, share something that's going on in your nonprofit, in your business, whatever it might be. And we have had people from all over. And because of our partnership with NJBIA, who, by the way, is the largest member association in the entire country, we have been able to have clients and attendees and friends of friends and business partners from all over the world, not just from the US. So,
ooh, can we get a what? And we just celebrated our 100th event in September, which just blows my mind because there are undeniable efficiencies with virtual networking. And I guess we're getting to the point where now our next event is on October 24th.
Yes.
So we're every fourth Monday. So when you think of Table for Four, think of T44, fourth Monday of every month, except for Christmas month. We're gonna
throw you for a loop in Christmas because of the way the holiday comes out this year. We're gonna play a little bit of musical chairs with the date.
So bear with us. But the reality is each month we probably have upwards of 80 registrants, and our attendees are engaged, interested in building business, and from a B2B perspective, which to me is a win because
it is B2B and we do have sponsorship opportunities. So one of the benefits that we get is when you're in the networking rooms as a sponsor, you actually do get the list of all the attendees so that you can reach out to them and connect and really try to fortify that relationship a little bit more. As an attendee, you do not get access to the list of all those that attended, but we do leave the chat open so that you can still see all their information. So even though it requires a little bit more work on your part, you still get access to that information. Of course, we're always interested in hearing of different companies out there that would be interested in sponsorship. Feel free to reach out to either one of us. We'd be happy to discuss that. But there is great leverage with being able to talk to an entire room of business professionals who are looking to expand their network. I mean, that is the reason we're all joining there. So absolutely, we'd love to welcome as many of you as possible to join us for that.
And if you'd like to take your virtual to the next level, on Friday, October 21st, we will be hosting R&R, Reconnect, Network, and Refuel. And it is, we always talk about people work with who they know, like, and trust. And it is a great opportunity to fortify your existing relationships and forge new relationships. It is at Town Bar and Kitchen in Morristown. If you are local, it's not far off 287, and it's right across from the Morristown train station where you can always park there, because in Morristown got all swanky and it got really hard to park there.
I was going to say, Morristown has really taken
it took a right-hand turn somewhere. I was like, it's not the same Morristown. 25 years ago it did, and when I moved to Morris County, it's not the same place. It's amazing. It's a metropolis. So hopefully you can join us. We'll drop the link in the chat also. So that's Friday, October 21st from 4 to 6. That means you have your whole evening to go do your thing. Go grab dinner in Morristown. Go see a show. There's lots of magic that's happening in Morristown. But this gives you an opportunity to get some networking in. And then on the second Tuesday of next month, we have our business growth roundtable where we're talking about business scalability. So if you are if you're a business owner or you are part of an energetic sales team and scaling is something that is an imperative to your business, we are doing incredible panel discussion of people coming out of we have an attorney and an engineer, and we have a third person, and it
is a panel discussion on how to build a self-scaling business. We actually have Roseanne DeTorres from DeTorres and DeGeorge Family Law. We have Rachel Durkin, of course, from Paradigm Marketing and Design.
She'll be facilitating the panel.
Yep. And then we also have Donna Miller from C3 Workplace, who will be on the panel along with Stan. And Stan is one of the main partners over at CP Engineers, and they are awesome to work with. So
I mean, if you want your business, if you're tired of working in your business and you want to work on it, you will not want to miss this panel discussion. We'll drop the link. Also, it is free to attend. There's also sponsorship opportunities available for the roundtable also.
And that is with a partnership with NJBIA. So we're pretty excited about that. I mean, we have a great partnership with NJBIA. We do a lot of things with them. And this is one of those events that we do partner with them as well.
NJBIA has been just an amazing partner. Kate, we miss you today.
Thank you.
And we hope that you're having a successful event today. And yeah, I think that wraps us up for the pipeline today. What do you think? Are we
I
missing
think it
anything?
does. I think the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link for NJBIA, because one of the things that I've been noticing is a lot of my clients, as we're getting into the end of the year and starting to do a lot of planning, and if you haven't started planning, really get on that right now for 2023. There is a lot of discussion about payroll services and HR and some of these new policies that are coming into play when we're talking about intergenerational things, like how do I word things in just the right way so that I don't seem insulting, et cetera, et cetera. NJBIA is not only the largest member association in the US, but they actually have some great resources from an HR and payroll perspective. So if you have not checked them out yet, please make sure you do so. I'm actually going to put the link on the comment section as well as on the screen so that you can actually check them out. NJBIA has everything you could possibly imagine from an HR perspective, consulting, resources of what's good, what's not, what's coming down the pipeline. They do a lot with legislation. So check out their website. If you're not yet a member, I would definitely encourage you to attend or reach out to Kate about membership and attend some of their events. They have a lot of information going on for business owners.
You are such a great ambassador of NJBIA, NJBIA love. And even though you couldn't be here with us, Kate, you're here with us anyway, because you're part of our coven of magic.
We are so excited that you guys were all able to join us. And please make sure you share this with those folks that you are in, different networking events so that they can hear some of the tips that we provided, as well as some of the events that we have coming up. We look forward to seeing you at Table for Four and the Round Table and all the other wonderful events that we shared with you guys. And we will see you next time at the Pipeline, opening doors and
closing business.
Take care, guys.